And welcome to Reading Between the Lines. I'm your host, The Water Dog, and today I'm going to be continuing my series on the One Vampire Crypt. I'm going to be looking at some master cards today, as well as some ally cards, and then we're going to present to you a One Vampire Crypt. I'm going to be looking at one vampire today, and we're going to break that vampire down for you and have some fun with that. So let's go ahead and let's get started. We're going to look at some master cards. These are some master cards that you can put in almost any one of these One Vampire Crypt decks. These will work in just about every single one of them. These are just some of my favorite cards to kind of put in there. And the main reason is because if you're playing with, like, we're going for the 8 cap, if you watch the first episode of this, it's the 8 cap that I like, then you know that you're going to have 22 pool to play with for the most part, okay? So you're going to have a lot of pool to play around with, and so there's things that you can do. So the first master card we're going to look at is Antediluvian Awakening. Fun card. Put it in play. During each Methuselah's unlock phase, he or she burns a pool, or he or she may burn a vampire he or she controls with the capacity 4 or more to burn this card. This is just a great card to basically give you another alternative win condition to do damage to your opponent. I've always liked this card simply because that's what it does. It hits everybody. It even hits you, but it doesn't really hurt you, okay? So that's what I like about it in this One Vampire Crypt scenario. Another good card is Arcanum Chapter House Alexandria. Okay, it's a unique location, and basically what it does is that when each of your predator or prey, they're going to burn a pool during their unlock phase, okay, for each hunting ground that they control. So that's what's good about this. It's just another way to do damage. It's a card you can put into play. It does damage to both your predator and your prey. It will then also force them to have to take an action to get rid of it. Okay, because if it's doing damage to them, they're going to want to have to get rid of it to do that. So it's just it's a good card to put into these types of decks. Bleeding the Vine is another fun card to have in these One Vampire Crypts because it allows you to basically slow down, once again, particularly your prey. It's a unique master. You put it into play. During your unlock phase, you lock this card or you burn 1 pool. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to have it out. You're going to pay a pool to keep it in play. And then you may lock this card to cancel a non-out-of-turn master card played by another Methuselah as the card is played. Okay? That card has no effect, and that Methuselah gains another master phase action. So it allows you the ability, by just having it unlocked, makes them have to think about whether or not they want to play a master card or if it's going to force them to have to waste a master card. And so, you could do that for a few turns. And then here's the other beautiful thing about it. The other beautiful thing about it is if you don't want to pay for it, it just stays locked and you don't have to worry about it, okay? So it's just a way at particular points in the game that you can utilize this card. It's a fun card to use. And like I said, really good in a deck that you have, your One Vampire Crypt, okay? Another good card, Curse of Nitocris, okay? Unique master. Choose a Methuselah and put this card in play. Under the control of the chosen Methuselah, the controller of this card burns 1 pool during each of his or her unlock phases. Each time a new Methuselah gets the edge, the current controller of this card chooses any Methuselah, and that chosen Methuselah takes control of this card. Once again, it's just something to annoy everybody. It's a card you're going to put in. It's just going to be an annoyance. It's something they have to think about. It's something they have to kind of play around if they don't want to take damage. And so it's really good for the type of deck that we are building. Okay. One of the cards I like with my style of deck for this type of thing is Gambit Accepted, because I'm always confident that if I'm playing this type of deck, that I'm typically going to be able to get my prey out. Okay, and so when you're playing Gambit Accepted, here's the fun stuff. It's a master, only usable if you have at least 1 victory point. Lose 1 victory point and put this card in play. During your unlock phase, move 1 pool from your prey's pool to your pool. If you are ousted, your predator gains an additional victory point. At the end of the game, if you have not been ousted, you gain an additional victory point. Okay? So what's good about this is that you are going to be doing, once again, an alternative style of damage. Okay? It's an alternative style of damage. You're going to be able to do that extra point of damage each turn. So get the victory point, then play your Gambit Accepted, and then roll with it. You know, it's kind of hard to get it all to work because sometimes you might draw it early. You're gonna have to discard it or whatever. It's not a card you want to hang on to, but it is a fun card to put in because if you do have it at the right time, once again, it's a good alternative point of damage. And just even as a throwaway card, it's just fun to have in the deck for this type of stuff. Because once again, this is casual. This is casual. All right, it's casual play. Have fun with it. All right, now let's take a look at some retainers and some allies that are fun to put in these type of decks. The first one I'm going to start with is Ghoul Escort. Ghoul Escort, once again, doesn't cost you anything. Once again, I love free things. I love free things, all right? Ghoul Escort is a ghoul with 4 life, requires a ready vampire. When this vampire is blocked, he or she may burn this retainer and unlock instead of entering combat. So it's a way to protect your vampire. Doesn't cost you anything to put this retainer onto your vampire. You get into combat, you can then burn it, and then you unlock. Boom. Okay? Unlock. Boom. And so it's a great way to play defense. And the other wonderful thing is you could, you know, if you want to play that style, you could put 4 to 6, 7 of them in a deck, you know, and put those ghoul escorts onto your vampire and never have to worry about ever going into combat. You know, you just burn them, boom, burn them, boom, burn them, boom, and just protect your vampire. And so it's really good for that. So I like that. The Ghoul Escort, really good card. Ghoul Retainer. Okay, so if you want to play with, let's say, some extra weapons, what's better than to not have a Ghoul Retainer? Now it's going to cost you 2 a pool, but here we go. It's a ghoul with 2 life, 1 strength. During the initial strike resolution each round, the Ghoul Retainer inflicts 1 damage or may use a weapon not used by the employee minion or another retainer that round, either before or after. This is not a strike, although it does count as using the weapon. So I've got 2 guns. I'm going to give 1 to my Ghoul Retainer. That's pretty simple, man. Pretty simple. Okay. I got a Singer Dagger. Okay. I'm going to give him a 44 Magnum. Whatever it's going to be, I don't know. 2 weapons. 2 weapons, and so that's the good thing about the Ghoul Retainer. Once again, it is going to cost you some pool, but because you're not using a lot of pool because you're only playing with 1 vampire anyway, there you go. So you have backup, basically. You've got backup with this. Of course, then it's also going to allow you to play the other types of retainers that's going to help you beef things up. Things like J.S. Simmons Esquire, you get the +1 bleed, Jackie Thurman, you get an optional maneuver each combat. Mr. Winthrop, you're going to get +1 intercept, okay? Things like that. Now, when you get into allies, then let's just go with some of the fun allies that are typically played, but is a lot easier to play when you've got a 1 vampire crypt. Things like Mylan Horseseed, okay? Unique changeling, 1 life, 0 strength, 1 bleed. Once each combat, Mylan can strike, dodge. He can unlock a ready non-Camarilla vampire with capacity 8 or more as a +1 stealth action. Mylan cannot block vampires. Cost you 1 pull, but basically what he does is he gives you an unlock, okay? Gives you an unlock. So that's what's good about Mylan, okay? You can't go wrong by playing an Ocean, okay? Put an Ocean in your deck. It's basically an extra minion. Once again, it has no clan or sect to it. But what Ocean does is he can enter combat with any vampire as a +1 stealth D action. In the first round of combat with a vampire who has played a card that requires aspects during this action, that vampire cannot use any maneuvers or strikes. Ocean gains 1 life at the end of each round for each blood the opposing vampire used to heal damage or prevent destruction that round. So Ocean, you could just have him go in and enter combat, and he's got 2 strength. He's kind of hard to kill, so he just gives you an extra means to go in and weaken vampires up is what he does. Just helps you weaken them up. He does cost you 3 pull, but you do get that inner combat action, which is fun. So a good ally goes into, like I said, any of those types of decks. Procurer, another ghoul. Procurer will move 1 blood from the blood bank to a ready vampire you control as a +2 stealth action. And so basically what it is a hunting ground for you. It's a blood doll type of ally for you. So it allows you to basically put blood back onto your vampire. So put in a Procurer out. Now here's the other difference too about the Procurer is that it's going to cost you 2 blood, not 2 pull, but 2 blood. And so that's what's good about that. Now that we've looked at some cards, let's actually look at a vampire that we can play. And one of my favorites is Zubeida. I love Zubeida. She is just so good. Such a good vampire, and particularly for this format because you're looking at its 8 cap, 5 abilities, 5 of them, 3 of them at superior. And the other great things is she's got the trigger words. So she's got the sect, which is Sabbath, and got the trait, which is Black Hand. And so now you're talking to me, what you're really talking about is you're talking about 7 abilities. Plus she's got a card text ability, okay? Zubeida gets +1 bleed when bleeding Methuselah, who controls no ready vampires with capacity above 6. So she's got a built-in ability, but she's also got, a sect, which is the Sabbath, and then she's got the trait, which is the Black Hand. So you've got those 2 things. So that allows you to play cards with those 2 abilities. So let's look at some types of cards that we could play with Zubeida because she is wonderful. So here we go. Let's first look at what the Sabbat can do for her, okay? So the first card we're going to look at is Abbott. Abbott is a +1 stealth action, requires a Sabbath vampire. Put this card on this acting Sabbat vampire and unlock him or her. This Sabbat vampire gets +1 intercept against D actions directed at his or her controller. A vampire may have only 1 Abbott. So once again, you're going to get a action. It's going to allow you then to unlock, and then it's going to give you intercept. Great card. Great card for a vampire that has Protean. Great card. Okay. So just a fun card to put in there. And once again, it gives you the ability to unlock, which is great. Our next card is Games of Instinct. Requires a ready Sabbat vampire. It's a D action to enter combat with an older vampire controlled by another Methuselah. At the end of that combat, if only 1 combatant is ready, that ready vampire gains blood equal to the opposing vampire's capacity from the blood bank. So you could set up Zubeida, of course, with aggravated damage, get into the combat, send the opposing vampire to Topor, and then fill your Zubeida back up at full capacity. So, it's just really, really good. Okay, so it gives you a way to do that. Another combat card, Rumble, requires a Sabbath vampire. Direct action, enter combat with a ready minion controlled by another Methuselah. In that combat, your hand size is increased by 1. If this acting vampire is not ready at the end of the action, you burn 1 pool. So you get to increase your hand size. It gives you a way to cycle, even if you don't send the vampire to Topor. So the downside is it costs you a pool. The upside is it does allow you to cycle through your hand and give you more opportunities to do damage to the opposing vampire. So another good card, once again, using that Sabbat trigger word. Great master card now for a Sabbat vampire is Yop Court. Master, unique location, requires a ready Sabbat vampire. When a political action is successful, before the referendum, lock this card and a ready unlocked Sabbat vampire you control to have that vampire enter combat with the acting vampire. If the acting vampire is still ready at the end of the combat, the Sabbat vampire takes 2 damage and the referendum is conducted as normal. Okay, so what it is basically is you could stop a vote by entering combat, all right, and knocking them out. That's what it is. So fun card, once again, requires that Sabbat sect, and so it just allows a lot of fun for Zubeida to have. Now let's have a whole lot of fun, all right, because the Black Hand is a great trait because it does allow you to play a lot of fun cards that you don't normally get to play. So being a Black Hand vampire, you get these cards. So let's start with the admonitions. Unique master. Put this card in play. Lock to discard 1 card if you control a ready Sabbat vampire. Lock to draw 2 cards if you control a ready Black Hand vampire. During your discard phase, control of the admonitions passes counterclockwise until it is controlled by Methuselah, who controls a ready Sabbat vampire, or is burned if there are none. Okay? So the great thing is you're going to be able to cycle your hand. The cards then get passed. And then you have to ask yourself how many of the other Methuselahs at the table are going to be playing Sabbat vampires. Because if they don't have a Sabbat vampire in play, guess what? That card gets right back to you. It gets right back to you. And especially in today's gaming with a lot of people playing 5th edition, you're going to be running into a lot of anarchs. So there's going to be a lot of Anarch decks out there. So there's not going to be as many Sabat vampires probably floating around. So that card's going to more than likely get passed to you. And so therefore it's a way for you to get cycling of your hand. So a good card to get started with. Once again, that Black Hand trigger. The Art of Memory requires a Black Hand vampire, only usable when the action is announced. Remove this card from the game when it is played. If the action is successful, move one card played by this vampire during this action from your ash heap to your hand. Discard down to your hand size. Once again, it's a modifier that allows you, okay, to recycle. Okay, once again, it's going to allow you to recycle a card that you can use. Once again, it's got that Black Hand trigger word, and I always love ways where I can manipulate my hand. Anything that allows me to manipulate my hand is fun, and so this is a great one of it card in your deck. So especially with Zubeida, it's a Black Hand. Just stick one into your deck. That's all you need because you only get to play it once anyway. So have fun with that one. Chronicle of the Lost Tribe, +1 stealth action, requires a ready Black Hand vampire unique. Put this card in play. You get +1 hand size. Any vampire with a capacity above 4 may steal this card for his or her controller as a D action. So this has got two good things for you going. Okay, the first one is you can increase your hand size. The second thing it's got going for you is it's basically going to be something that's going to possibly lead to combat, which means somebody's going to try to take it. And if they want to try to take it, then there you go. You get a combat out of that. Okay. The other thing is if they do take it, and since you're playing a multi-action vampire, which Zubeida is, and you don't have an action in your hand, and somebody's taking your Chronicle of the Lost Tribe, well, there you go. Take an action to go take it back is what you do. And if anything else, it'll lead into another combat. Right. So there you go. And so it's just a way to increase the hand size. It's a way to initiate combat, all those fun things that you get with it. Dominion, MasterCard. Put this card on a Black Hand vampire. Vampires must burn 1 blood to attempt to block this Black Hand vampire. A vampire can have only 1 Dominion. So for people to block, once again, this is a way to do damage to vampires. This is once again, it's just another good one-of card that you're going to stick into your deck. Doesn't cost you anything. Once again, I love things that don't cost me anything. And it's going to do damage to somebody who wants to stop you. So good card for Black Hand. Drop Point Network. Master requires a ready Black Hand vampire. Remove 7 cards in your ash heap from the game to search your library for a minion card. Show it to all players and move it to your hand. Discard afterwards. Now, this is a great card to have when you're looking for a win condition. So it's going to cost you 1 pull, okay? But you're down to the end of the game, and lo and behold, you draw your Drop Point Network, okay? So what you do is you pay your 1 pull, remove 7 cards from your ash heap, and then you go and you find your win condition card, okay? And it could be a plus bleed card, or it could be what we're going to talk about here in a little bit, an enticement card, okay? Anything that's going to help you get your win condition, okay? So that's what's good about that. Once again, it's a Black Hand card, so there you are. Ebony Fox Hunt. Cancel a blood hunt called on a Black Hand vampire you control. You may play this card during your turn. You can basically go out and diabolize a vampire and cancel the blood hunt. Boom. I love it. Love it. Go out and just go eat you a vampire and then cancel the blood hunt. Good card. Ebony Fox Hunt, Black Hand card. One of the best cards in the game, Guardian Rubrics. Unique equipment requires a ready Black Hand vampire. The vampire with this equipment may bleed at +2 bleed as a D action that costs 1 blood. While the bearer is ready, Gehenna cards cost an additional 1 pull to play. What is so wonderful about this card is not only you get the +2 bleed, okay, but the other thing is that anybody that's playing Gehenna cards, it's going to cost them an additional pull. Once again, alternative damage. Whenever you can think of an alternative win condition and ways to do damage besides bleeding, it is always wonderful. Guarded Rubrics does that. And once again, good Black Hand card. Mariava Thuggy, Ghoul with 3 life, 1 strength, 1 bleed, requires a ready Black Hand vampire. The Thuggy can play cards requiring a basic Offuscape as a vampire. He can inflict 1 damage on a ready vampire as a D action during your unlock phase. If the number of Thuggies you control is greater than the number of Black Hand vampires you control, lock all the Thuggies you control. I like to stick 1 in the deck. Just have 1. It's just a backup way to put a minion onto the table. So, Mariava Thuggy, Ocean, stick them on the table. You got some backup, guys that can fight. The good thing about Mariava Thuggy is the obfuscate. So what the Thuggy does is it gives you the one bleed, so you got like a minion that can do bleed damage. Okay, and with obfuscate for all things. So stick one. It's a black hand card. Stick it in the deck. Reunion Kamut. +1 stealth action requires a black hand vampire. Move 2 blood from the blood bank to a black hand vampire in your uncontrolled region. So what you can do is this is basically a way to govern down, but it doesn't cost you anything. So you can move 2 blood from the blood bank, move it onto a Zubeida that you have in your uncontrolled region, okay? And you can use that blood to either start setting up your next Zubeida, or you can use that blood to cycle off to gain pool. So it's a way to gain pool as well as a way to start prepping your next Zubeida once you decide to remove the first Zubeida from the game, okay? So Reunion Kamut, once again, black hand card, doesn't cost you anything. There you go. Shakar, Master, put this card on the Black Hand Vampire. This Black Hand Vampire can enter combat with any younger non-Black Hand Vampire as a D action. A vampire can have only one Shakar. Once again, another good card. It's going to cost you 1 pull, though, and this is going to allow you to just go into combat. This is just allows you to take actions to fight. And that's what you want with a one vampire crypt, is you want a vampire that can take a lot of different actions. Once again, once this card gets put into play for you, you only need the one of you. So you can always get a combat out of it every turn. So good card. Watch Commander requires a black hand vampire only usable when attempting to block a D action +1 intercept. So this is a card that gives you an intercept and you don't have to have a discipline to get it. So Zubeida's disciplines really don't have intercept. So this is a way to generate intercept to do a block, okay? So, with the Abbot and Watchtower combined, that gives you 2 intercept, all right? So that's pretty good. Our last black hand card that we're going to look at is Weeping Stone, unique location, +1 hand size. During your unlocked phase, a ready black hand vampire you control can gain 1 blood. Any Asimite can burn this card as a D action that costs 1 pull. So what you get is you get a +1 hand size and you got a hunting ground. It's going to cost you 3 pull. It is expensive, but you do get the hand size and you do get the hunting ground out of it. Now, the good thing about this is this doesn't count as a hunting ground, okay? So it's not going to be a hunting ground that counts against you. So you can still put a hunting ground into play and still gain it, because this is something that's completely different. It is not a hunting ground. So you can go ahead and gain a blood from this and gain a blood from another hunting ground if you decide to play with a hunting ground. For Zubeida, what I like about it is, once again, is you got the extra hand size for sure. So especially when you're multi-acting, you want as many cards in your hand as possible. And so it works great for her. So that breaks down the set, and that breaks down the trait of Zubeida. But let's start looking at the abilities. And I would love to go through a lot of the stuff with the abilities, but we're going to only concentrate real quickly on just one of her abilities, and that's Serpentis. Put you a MasterCard Serpentis in there. And get her, a superior Serpentis as soon as you can, because that's going to allow 2 fun cards for Zubeida to play. The first one is Enticement. Enticement is a Serpentis card. It's direct action. Burn the edge to burn 2 pull from your prey. Minions you control cannot bleed until the end of the turn. So what you do is you bleed, you get the edge. You then will do the enticement to burn the edge to do 2 more damage, okay? If you're at the superior, you get to do 3 damage, okay? So at the superior, your prey burns 3 pull. Once again, it's an alternative win condition. It's another way to do alternative damage. Love it, okay? The second Serpentis card that you get to play with is Form of Corruption. Put it in play. Put this card in play at the inferior. If your prey gets the edge anew, you can add 1 counter to this card. If the number of counters on this card equals or exceeds the amount of blood on a vampire controlled by your prey during your master phase, you can burn this card to steal that vampire. A Methuselah can have only 1 form of corruption. At the superior, as above, and your prey burns 1 pull after you burn this card. Now, I love it because it comes into play at the inferior. It comes into play at the inferior, okay? So you put it into play because Zubeida has inferior Serpentis, and what you do is if you get it into play early, is you just let it build. You let it build to when you get down to just you and one other Methuselah, and then that's when you want to burn it. That's when you burn the form of corruption, and you take one of their vampires and you take advantage, of the game. You've now got a little bit, of advantage in the game. So once again, what I like about it is it's a may. It says you can burn this card to steal that vampire. You don't have to steal a vampire. So you can wait, build that form of corruption up, and then hopefully by the end of the game, you've got about 6 to 8 counters on top of this form of corruption, burn it, and then steal a vampire. Great card. Once again, these are 2 really good cards that play into Zubeida. 2 good actions, especially the enticement, because you want to put probably about 6 enticements in a Zubeida deck. The other good thing about her is she does have superior obfuscate, so it's easy to get the action off. Very easy to get that action off, to get that enticement to do that damage. And so if you can get a Master Serpentis card onto Zubeida, now you're doing 3 pull damage. Once again, alternative win condition, okay? I mean, there's a lot of fun cards to play with Zubeida, and I could spend all day looking at that, but I wanted to kind of look at the Sabbat and Black Hand cards. After all, she is kind of, if you don't know the history of Zubeida, she's basically a werewolf who became a vampire. That's what she is. She is a werewolf who became a vampire. And so that's why she looks the way that she looks. She's called an abomination because, that's what these vampire werewolf creatures were referred to as, was these abominations. Sterile because they can't make any more of their kind type of deal. And very scarce, very rare to have these abominations. I think, if memory serves, I think there's only like 3. Let me check that real quick. 4. There are 4. I forgot about Lori Dunson. Yeah, I remembered Alonzo. I remember Pariah. I've played Pariah before, and I've played Alonzo before, but I forgot about Lori Dunson. So there are 4 abominations in VTES, okay? But Zubeida by far and away is the best, and she does make a great 1 vampire crypt. That's all I got time for today. I know I spent a lot of time on this 1 vampire, but she is just a lot of fun, and she is a unique vampire. It's a unique clan, being an abomination, and so just give it a try. We're going to continue with the series on the next episode. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.
You watched the whole video? Congratulations. Hey, thanks for tuning in to Reading Between the Lines. I'm your host, The Water Dog, and if you like what you've been watching, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Y'all take care.